Hi everyone, my name is Seth, and I am lucky enough to be a writer for a really great company called HAPSIE. HAPSIE.com is where you can find all of the great comic strip stories that are designed to do one thing, make you feel good. You can also find them collected in something like this, the HAPSIE Hodgepodge. This is the summer 2021 edition. And it's where you can also find a really great character of mine known as Greedy Greg. Now, Greedy Greg has one mission, and it is to try and make as much money as he can. And along the way, he, of course, has some interesting adventures when he realizes that being greedy isn't always the best solution. Inside of HAPSIE Hodgepodge, you can find the Greedy Greg story I'm going to be reading today. It's known as Frack. And the best part is, I love getting to share great stories like this with you. In our first panel, Greedy Greg is leaving the plucky entrepreneur store. The editor is already suspicious, if not concerned, and says, "Uh-oh, what is Greedy Greg planning?" Greedy Greg is carrying a box or a bag, and a tag on it says free. You know, Greedy Greg likes to get his deals. Greedy Greg is sitting on his couch. There is a torn bag on the floor, books all around him, and a television set. And the speaker from the set says, "Fracking is a simple process that extracts oil from the ground to make you rich." In our next panel, Greedy Greg is listening as someone asks, "Do tell, Mr. Blackgold," to which below on the bottom of the screen we can see it's oil inches beneath the surface in the rocks, and there's no drilling needed. And you can suck it up in seconds. Any smart investor knows this is a sure thing. In our next panel, Greedy Greg has already set up his new company with a sign that says Greg Easy Oil. Greedy Greg says, "I'll be wearing the crown jewels soon enough." But the editor says, "Is this your garden, Greedy?" In our next panel, the editor points out, "Begin with branded goods, a proper startup company." On the desk we can see a hard hat that says Greg Easy Oil. Beneath that, fracking using household materials. In our next panel, Greedy Greg is watching the television as it continues to point out that using household chemicals, you can break down pieces of oil in the rock and suck it all up. Greedy Greg says, "Like a vacuum, so easy it should be illegal." To which the editor says, "It is, at home." In our next panel, Greedy Greg lifts up a piece of sidewalk concrete and then pumps a hose, which looks like it's coming from his vacuum. Who knew lifting up the ground was so easy? In our next panel, Greedy Greg flips the switch, one flick to find the oil. And then we can see that there is a pumping and sucking action going on, to which Greedy Greg clenches his hands near his face and says, "It's like magic." Then Greedy Greg flips the switch from out to in. "Another flick to bring the oil in," he says. Greedy Greg raises his hands in victory. "Simply brilliant! I'm rich!" And barrels are being filled with the oil he is pumping from the ground. Greedy Greg, in the next panel, looks at a map of the city, its houses. Beneath it is a sticker for profit and another one for stock price. "First my house, then the city, then the world," says Greedy Greg. In our next panel, Greedy Greg is hopping, if not skipping, down the sidewalk. And he says, "It's a shame the city doesn't take better care of its citizens and the grounds. Look at all these cracks. To which the editor says, I wonder why. In our next panel, the ground begins to grumble, 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 and we see Greedy Greg's house sinking into the ground. He holds his hands next to his head and clasps his hard hat. In the next panel, Greedy Greg is on the phone. The inside of his house looks like a disaster. And he's saying, "It's false advertising, I say. It's crooked and criminal." Greedy Greg is talking to the person on the other end of the phone. And in our next panel, we see that it's a gopher wearing a hard hat sitting in front of his desk, apparently underground. "Hello," says the gopher. "You need to dig a house from out of the ground?" "Well, how did the house get into the ground?" he asks. In the next panel, Greedy Greg says, "Never mind that. Can you do it?" To which the gopher says, "Sure, I could do it, but it's like drilling for oil. There's always a price." To which the editor says, "Ha ha, ooh, snap. I think there's an environment joke somewhere in there." And that brings us to the end of episode 2 of Greedy Greg. Frack it. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. And if you want to enjoy all of the Greedy Greg comic strips and all of the great comic strips available from HAPSIE, check out HAPSIE.com. And while you're there, if you want a collection of these stories to enjoy and put on your shelf and read along with me or read to yourself, you can find copies of the HAPSIE Hodgepodge Summer 2021 at HAPSIE.com. And if you do get one, send us a picture. We'd love to see you with your book reading all the great stories that myself and all of the great creators at HAPSIE love to share with you. I'd also love to give a quick shout to the amazing artist, Arif Amrullah, for making all of the great Greedy Greg stories come to life. I can't wait for the chance for the two of us to do one of these episodes together. But in the meantime, this has been Greedy Greg, episode number 2, Frack it. And I've been lucky enough to share this great story with you. I look forward to the next time we get to tell you another great story from HAPSIE.com about Greedy Greg. Until then, bye now.